Hey everybody, Brian Goulet here from GouletPens.com to present to you my list of the hottest fountain pens of 2024. This is a totally subjective and unbelievably biased list that I've put together, building up in popularity and excitement until it gets to number one at the end. So go make yourself a coffee or a tea, get cozy, and take a trip down memory lane with me as we remember all the great pens that we've seen introduced this year. Let's start easing into it with number 10, Sheaffer Coffee Edition. Now I want to start off talking about Sheaffer as a whole brand because it's one that we used to carry years ago and we kind of slowly sunset it, but we were reintroduced to them this year. While their product line isn't all that extensive, the pens that they do have are very fairly priced, they're good quality, and they have nailed it with a few of their colors, with the standout being the Coffee Edition. Now this is a dark brown to a light brown ombre satin finish that first came on the Sheaffer 100 model, then it came later in the year to the VFM, which is a slightly thinner pen. Now Sheaffer as a whole has been received pretty positively for our customers, beyond what we expected to be quite honest, and these coffee editions are a unique design that helps Sheaffer to stand out a little bit, and I think that's part of why it was a hot seller. Now I'm hopeful that they'll keep this up. We'll just see what Sheaffer has in store for us next year. Number 9. Kaweco Piston Sport. For decades, this has been a unique and recognizable pocket pen that many of us have at least one of them in our collection. It was actually one of the first pens that I ever acquired 15 years ago. But they've always been cartridge pens, which makes sense given their small size, right? Well, this year Kaweco brought us the internal piston filling versions, first in the aluminum All Sport, then in the resin Classic Sport later in the year. They have a similar form factor to the sports that we've always known, but they have the most adorable little blind cap to protect that filler knob. It has a large and very visible ink window to make checking your ink level easy, and it's got an increased ink capacity. Now the price jumps up a little bit from the cartridge pens, so it might not be for everyone, but they've got a pretty strong reception in the pen community so far. And I'll be curious to see, based on the success of these ones, if maybe they decide to expand the color offerings. I don't know, I'll be interested to see where they go with it. Number 8, Delta Spaccanapoli. Delta's next, and they've had some pretty strong offerings this year, but their pens are typically in that like premium price range. Well, they released the Spaccanapoli back in May, which was aimed to be the most accessible pen that still felt of the quality that you get with the more premium Deltas. Now, it's not uncommon for premium pen companies to release more affordable pens, but there's usually a pretty distinctly different feel to them than the rest of their line. And when I heard that Delta was releasing a $150 MSRP pen, I was prepared to accept some pretty big compromises, but I honestly was very pleasantly surprised. Sure, it's cartridge converter, it's got a stainless steel nib, which is honestly not surprising at this price, but the build quality and the resins used, to me, feel like this pen punches above its weight class. The Terracolor in particular has been a big hit, and that's exciting to see because I think that this pen will get a Delta into a lot of people's hands that otherwise might not get to experience them. And the experience they're getting is gonna be one that really gives a nice introduction to the brand as a whole. The last couple of years, Delta's really been up to some good stuff, and the Spaccanapoli really hit it out of the park, I think. Number 7, LAMY All-Star Harry Potters. LAMY, gotta talk about LAMY. They've come out with so many special editions this year. I'm kind of blown away. Now, historically, they've done an All-Star and a Safari each year, though recently they've started doing, multiples at a time. Well, this year they not only did multiples of those pens, but they did multiples with multiple launches. It was like a LAMY Palooza this year, basically. And they didn't really make any duds, honestly. They had a couple of standouts though, and that's what I gotta talk about. So what I'm gonna feature here as number 7 is the LAMY All-Star Harry Potter collection. They made a collection of 4 pens, one for each of the Hogwarts school houses, all with unique colors, trim, grips, and an engraved design to make it really feel like Harry Potter. They put all 4 in a set, which we haven't been able to keep in stock, and they offer them individually, which actually makes it kind of fun to see which house, kind of wins in terms of which is most popular. Now, I can't speak to it globally, but I do know what we've sold here, and I can say as of this recording at least, currently it's Ravenclaw in the lead, Slytherin is close behind, Gryffindor's in a pretty solid third, and then Hufflepuff is like kind of, definitively in 4th place. Poor little Hufflepuff. This is actually kind of a big deal. It's certainly the biggest if not the only licensed brand collaboration that I can remember seeing with LAMY in North America at least. I know they've done some in other parts of the world, like I know they did Pokemon and they did Line Friends, but we never had those in North America. So just with that alone, these are pretty cool. And, there are surely a lot of Harry Potter fans out there who will discover LAMY and try fountain pens who might not otherwise have done so. LAMY was specifically trying to get more kids into handwriting, and I think this is actually a pretty thoughtful way to do that. Now, I do want to give an honorable mention here to all the other special edition All-Stars, as there really were a lot of good ones, in particular Aquatic. That translucent blue grip just makes my heart skip a beat. Number 6, Sailor TUZU Adjust. Sailor makes some gorgeous pens, and they have probably the most extensive range of pen colors of any brand that I've ever seen. But they have long been pretty much a premium brand with gold nib pens, kind of make it tough for newer pen users to get into it. Well, they worked for several years in secret on this new pen from the ground up, literally building an entire new factory and equipment to make the TUZU Adjust. Now, I did a whole video mapping out all the details of the TUZU, and I recommend that you go check that out if you're interested. But the highlights are that this is a reasonably priced, high quality pen with some very neat features that newer fountain pen users as well as veteran pen users alike will really enjoy. Their design is simple and clean, and while it isn't the same pen design as their more premium 1911s and Pro Gears, I do think it gives a good impression of the type of quality that you'll get from Sailor for anyone wanting to try out the brand. Number 5, TWSBI VAC 700 Kyanite Blue. Moving on now to our top 5. I'll be honest, I was riding the struggle bus trying to narrow down this list, but I've done my classic Brian Goulet, cramming a bunch of extra pens into my list through honorable mentions, and I'm gonna be doing that strongly for the rest of this video. So, just expect that. Number 5 for me is the TWSBI VAC 700R Kyanite Blue. Now, being blue, it was already on my short list for hottest pens by default. I'm just joking, but only slightly. It's actually mostly a clear pen because TWSBI's gonna TWSBI, but the blue trim on this pen just absolutely slaps. Not only is it an incredible color, but they even two-toned the nib with the blue on it on the edge, and ooh, it just looks so sharp. Now, the VAC 700R is cool as heck, and it doesn't nearly get the color variety that the 580 and the Eco gets, so I'm really thrilled to see the Kyanite Blue bring some more love to the VAC, and a lot of you all agreed because this is a very popular pen. So here's the thing though, I really wanted to highlight the Kyanite Blue, and I have no regrets about doing that, but I have to mention the TWSBI 580 ALR Black as well. I could easily have made it a standalone pen on this list because it outsold a lot of other pens, including a lot of the other TWSBIs, but I figured just giving it a shout out here, kind of tucked in next to the Kyanite Blue, would suffice. Okay, I'm also gonna sneak in one more here. The 580 ALR Caribbean with Onyx has just barely launched as of this recording, but it looks amazing. I think it's gonna be really popular. It just hasn't had the time to prove it yet, but I had to say something about it. Number 4, LAMY Safari, Violet Blackberry, and all the other special editions. So earlier when I talked about a lot of LAMY All-Star releases, well, there was a special edition attack on Safaris this year as well. And they tried some cool new things, mixing matte and shiny finishes, doing both complementary and contrasting grip colors and finial colors. It was pretty cool. They really just had fun with them. They even came out with some matching ink, which leads me to the one that I really wanted to highlight, which is Violet Blackberry. It's got a shiny dark purple body, matte light purple grip, and black trim. It's just really a sharp looking pen. And the fact that they coupled an ink with it that also was a huge hit, I gotta give credit where credit's due. Number 3, TWSBI Eco Bonanza. Now, I do really try to vary up the brands on this list, but I couldn't help but bring TWSBI back into it again. They just crushed it with so many great colors this year. They launched 5 colors of Eco and Eco T this year, and none of them were dogs. Irish Green with Onyx looks really great. It really classes up the Eco. And the Dark Sapphire sold even more pens in quantity than the Irish Green. But the clear front runner for this year that I'm gonna highlight is the TWSBI Eco Caffè with bronze trim. Now, it's got a light brown latte color cap in the finial and a nice bright bronze trim. It's no wonder that this is the most popular TWSBI pen that we launched this year. We pen people just love our coffee, what can I say? But for those who aren't coffee fans, what do you like? Tea. And that segues beautifully to the number 2 spot. Number 2, BENU Euphoria, Matcha Latte, and Rose Tea. BENU. Seems like I can't make a list like this without BENU in it, and in this case, you're getting a 2 for 1. Not because I'm indecisive, I swear, Actually, I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm indecisive or not. Well, either way, I have two BENU pens that look quite different, but are basically kind of like fraternal twins. It's the Euphoria and the Matcha Latte and the Rose Tea. These are a continuation of our exclusive drinks collection, which have been enjoyed by many of you. The Matcha Latte has a swirl of olive green and white, just like the Matcha Latte drink does, and it actually has matcha tea infused into the resin. Not that this really does anything for you, but you know it's in there, and that's just kind of cool. Same thing goes for the Rose Tea though. You can actually see a little bit of those tea leaves that they infused in there. It's pretty cool. And I'm not always a pink pen guy, but I'll be darned, if I'm in a pink pen mood, for sure, this is one that I'd go reaching for first. BENU just can't stop, won't stop, and I'm here for it. Let's keep them coming. This is the point where I would normally be inclined to include honorable mentions, and I'd be lying if I said that I didn't already prepare that list for you. But for goodness sake, I've already infused honorable mentions into just about every number on this list. I gotta cut myself off somewhere, right? Okay, fine, I gotta do just one, right? I can't help it. The LAMY 2000 limited edition Pine, it was gorgeous. It was really expensive, everybody wanted it, and they were limited, but couldn't get them really, and now they're gone, but I just can't not talk about it, okay? LAMY, please, if there's one 2000 that you would ever consider adding as a regular edition, please, please make it the Pine. It's just awesome, please, pretty please. Okay, I'm done, I'll shut up now. Let's move on to number one. Number one, Pilot Vanishing Point. Goulet pen's 15th anniversary. So you know how I mentioned at the beginning how this list would be totally subjective and unbelievably biased? Well, it's pretty much because of my number one pick. Now, I am as biased as one could possibly be on this one because the length of time from ideation to creation of this pen spanned, as far as I can recall, about 8 years, but really the last 5 years of pretty intentional conversations around making this happen. Because there had never been a US retailer exclusive before, there was a lot to figure out. And with COVID thrown in the mix there too, it was very touch and go for a while whether this would even happen at all. Emotionally, we had to pretty much detach ourselves from the idea of it because there were just so many factors outside of our control. But lo and behold, Pilot came through in a big way, and we're super, super proud of the final product and the fact that we were able to be a part of making it happen. For us to come from such humble beginnings with just me and Rachel in our garage, cold calling and emailing Pilot USA, trying to explain our vision for selling fountain pens on the internet, to now working together on a project like this, I'm just so deeply honored and humbled by it all. As I'm recording this, we still have some of these pens left, but by the time it publishes, I don't know if we're gonna have any more of them, and when they're gone, they're really gonna be gone. But the opportunity to be a part of this is something that our whole team here is deeply proud of. And it's something that I personally will remember and cherish for the rest of my life. With 15 years of carrying thousands and thousands of pens, this one stands out for me as one of the most significant. So there you have it. The 8th annual Goulet Hottest Pens video is in the history books, and the clock starts ticking for next year's list. I would love to hear what you all think about my list, which by my count is actually more like 21 individual pens that I actually mentioned in a top 10 list. So, you know, this was actually me restraining myself, if you can believe that. What can I say? This was a great year for fountain pens. If you want to learn more about any of these, as well as the multitude of fountain pens, ink, and paper that we carry, head on over to gouletpens.com. You can learn a lot more there. Also, be on the lookout for my hottest inks of 2024 video, which will be shortly following this one. Thank you so much for supporting us in 2024. Have a wonderful start to your new year, and right on.